get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy and Max World Live are the views of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, the electric guy, the guy who cuts the grass, the woman who brings us cookies, the wait staff at Winston's, the management staff at Hubble Realty, the guy who fixes our van, the coffee crew at Friedrichs, the man on the skywalk who will work for food, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, confused, or just made to think independently, call 515-244-4655 or log on to webcastonelive.com and be a part of MaxWorldLive.com. You can reach Mac right now by calling 515-244-4655. 515-244-4655. You are listening to Max World Live with your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Running. Come on, y'all. Let's get it.
All right, good morning. It's the 28th day of December in the Lord's year 2010. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is show 469 of MaxWorldLive.com. Now, for those of you who are scratching your head saying, no, I've been listening to you for like 20 years. That was always Max World. And on December 28th of 2008, we started MaxWorldLive.com in a small studio owned by Daniel Shipton called Impromptu Studios. And that's where this trek began. But it didn't begin with expensive cameras and producers and beautiful sets and surrounded by people who were becoming professional broadcasters and awesome business people. Just right before my very eyes, it started with Uno and you. So, for this, our second year birthday, we're going to go back in time a little bit. Oh, I could go back and play you some of the old Ustream and videos from some of the first shows, and maybe someday we'll do that. That's a tremendous amount of production time, and quite frankly, it's all available for you on the net at any time anyway, so it's not like I'm digging up archive tape and playing back old pictures of Kevin and Molly Cooney at their wedding. You have access to all that. So visually, it's not going to look like it did today or it did 2 years ago. I'm going to go back to what I love the most. Radio. The power of the mind. The painting of pictures. And the telling of stories. So, on this, the 28th day of December in the Lord's year 2010, on the 469th show, beginning our third year at MaxWorldLive.com, let's go back in time to the way it was years ago. Max, cut the cameras. Esme, cut the lights. And I'm going to put on my headphones. And you can turn off your computer, pictures, because only later in the end will you have to look at me again. And maybe even not then. See, when I got into this business, and I hate to sound old, but the fact of the matter is, with technology the way it is, everything's changed. It used to be in radio that when you said something, it was gone. And it could never, ever, ever be captured and relived again. Now, for most disc jockeys and then talk show hosts, that was a blessing. It was a blessing because every once in a while we said things that we did not want repeated. And we certainly didn't want somebody to grab the soundbite and throw it on the Channel 13 News at 5 with Aaron Kiernan saying, local talk show host puts foot in mouth. And then everything changed. See, in the old days, we told stories with our voices. Sometimes the presence of words to communicate, and sometimes just that immensely powerful, yet ear-shattering silence. Paul Harvey was the man that taught me the power of the pause. Larry King and Walter Cronkite taught me how to interview. Both did it quite differently, but both were two of the most effective journalists of my younger days. I think I've told you the story how I was sitting in my fraternity in 1975, and it was the first Christmas that I wasn't able to go home and spend with my family because I had a job on the radio. And these were the days when radio was live 24/7. There were no playback tapes. There were no computers. There were 45 RPM records that have to be backed up a quarter to a half of a turn so they didn't wow in the beginning. It was the days when the Associated Press was the only audio-based news source. ABC became the second. And you would have to figure out how long your last song was and do what we call back timing into live news. And you'd get a tone at 60 seconds, and then you'd get a tone at 30, and then at 10 it'd begin to count down with tones. And by the time it got to 2, 1, your song better have ended, and the news would start. Live from the AP desk in Chicago, Illinois, I'm Walter Cronkite, and this is AP News. That was before he sat behind the CBS desk, and sometimes during. Before CBS had radio news, they did the AP News, but it was still the Associated Press. And the really talented announcers, and I'd like to say every once in a while I got lucky enough to do this, you'd find a song that would end cold. In other words, it was not a song that would fade away and you could turn down, you know. It was a song that the end of the song would go bong, and then the news would start. And as a young disc jockey traveling the Midwest from college to job to whatever I was doing, you could always tell the talented ones, because they're the ones that as the top of the hour approached and they'd start their last song, you'd know, oh my gosh, that song ends cold. Can he do it? And then 10 years ago, I got into the world of talk. And I no longer had to worry about the back timing of records or hitting AP News at the top. Because by then it was all computerized. It was all pre-recorded. It was all produced. I haven't touched a radio board except for a few short months at Des Moines Local Live in, 15 years. It's all done by talented producers, people who are far more talented than I am at making sure that the dots or the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that you, the listener or the viewer, see only the best possible product. But even in the days when there were no pictures, and I'm not talking about pre-TV, I'm talking about pre-internet, because before the internet, unless you could show me some magical AM or FM receiver, we call it terrestrial now, that would allow you to pick up a visual as well as an auditory, you couldn't see what was happening in the studio. It's probably why I have such a poor habit of dressing like a bum. Couldn't see me. Didn't matter if my hair was long or short. Didn't matter if I had a black eye from my playing with my kids on the ground. It didn't matter whether I was standing up, sitting down. The only thing that mattered was the story and the pictures I would weave from the words that I would use. I like telling stories. And don't get that confused with what my grandmother Henderson, that's the grandmother I liked. taught me about lying, because Grandma Henderson at an old age, I was a young age, excuse me, told me that telling a story and telling a lie were just two sides of the same coin. So when I talk about telling stories, I talk about painting pictures and telling stories of people's lives and their passions and the news stories and the human events and the emotions that go with everyone's daily life. When I talk about telling stories, it's the stories that after I got done reading the books to my kids, when I got done reading Where's the Moon? Here's Curious George, my kids would snuggle up and say, okay, now, Dad, tell me one of your stories. And, of course, somehow, because I'm a dad, those stories would always have a moral at the end. And the moral of the story is, Zachary used to say, because he'd know that I couldn't tell just a story about nothing. There had to be something to learn, right? Had to be some underlining, hidden messages. Or as he would later learn, Dad, what's your hidden agenda on this? Get to the point. What are you trying to teach me? And I'll be honest with you, if I can share something that you might say is TMI, it's one of the romantic things that bonded my wife and I together at such an early age. My wife used to say that she'd go to bed with Bartles and James and wake up with Hatfield and McCoy. My wife and I met through Me on the Radio back in the 80s. And she fell in love with my ability to tell stories long before she fell in love with the lips and the eyes and the nose and the ears and the face that she would later cradle and love for now over 25 years. I like the power of the audio. I was afraid with the internet it'd be gone. I was afraid with the internet that what you saw would be more important than what you heard. That how it was delivered and the presentation would mean more than the stake and the facts and the emotion. In fact, when we decided to go from Des Moines Local Live to Webcast One Live, it was for the ability to look better. Getting rid of those $99 USB cameras and getting rid of the mediocre producer, as in moi, to run the cameras and click the buttons and hire professional people. We upgraded Des Moines Local Live to Webcast One Live so we would be a visual that would compete on the internet. And for a while there, I must say I got a little starstruck. You can see me too. It's like TV and radio all together. And then I was reminded that the good Lord gave me a face for radio. And the beauty was in the eyes of the beholder. And I should probably go back to as little visual as I possibly can. See, with the visual, I have to cut my hair. With the visual, I have to lose weight. With the visual, I have to worry when I pick up my glass to take a drink. That the glass might have the wrong logo on it, or the coffee cup have the wrong signal. Might say something nasty, insulting, or offensive. Had to worry about the backdrop. I was told this morning that perhaps I would look better in white up against a gray background rather than in black. I don't give a feces. But you see, with the new medium, the internet, you have to. And that's why today, if you're tuning into Mac's World, there is no camera. There is no visual. Oh, I think Max. Here, let me look over here on my laptop. Max, I think, put a picture up, didn't he? What's the world? What am I looking at, Max? What is that? What is that, just a scene of something? Is that what you put up? Oh, yeah. Looks like hay bales or something. Feel free, Max, to change the visual anytime you want. Put pictures of you, Robbie, Esme. Just don't put any Kansas logos, please. Please, no Kansas logos. There you go. I like that. See, when I got into this business, Edwin Starr's #1 song, War, was at the top of the charts. Remember that? War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. And then it was Garth Brooks. I'm too damn young to feel this damn old. It was Boston, Peace of Mind. Which, by the way, would segue perfectly into Kiss. Beth. Just try it sometime. Used to be 2 records, and you'd go back and forth, but I suppose you can do that on your iPad or your iPad. But take Boston, Peace of Mind at the end, and then as it fades out, fade into Beth from Kiss, and it's the same. It's the same. It's the same note. And then it was talk radio. I'm not putting down my friends who play Garth Brooks records or Boston records or P. Diddy or whoever the new people are. I don't know. I'm not putting them down at all. But talking on the radio, telling stories, some people would say pontificating, is hard. See, it's not hard to do this. 17 minutes after 10 on a beautiful Tuesday morning. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Sunshine today and a high of only 9. Oh, maybe by New Year's Eve. Maybe by New Year's Eve. Some ice. Hopefully we'll avoid that. Right now it's 9 degrees, and this is Garth Brooks on the music station that gives you the most. 101.999 or whatever it is. See, that's not that hard. What's hard is to reach out and tug you by your heartstrings and try to make you mad, try to make you happy, try to give you something to think about, try to change your life. That's what's hard. Because I'm not a comedian. I don't know if you noticed. Every time I tell a joke, somebody tells me not to quit my day job. I like politics, but it doesn't drive me. I'm a faithful follower of Jesus Christ, but that subject gets a little old sometimes for those people who are agnostic or atheist. And quite frankly, there's more to life than my personal relationship with my Father God, although I'll be glad to share it with you whenever I can. What I find interesting are the things that are in your world, in Mac's world. That's why it's called Mac's World, because it's your eyes, or I'm sorry, it's your world through my eyes. Or I've even had people tell me that it's your world through your eyes. It's passions, it's heartache, it's excitement, it's love, it's winning and losing. And as Kenny Rogers would say, knowing when to fold. 2 years ago today, on the 28th of December in 2009, MaxWorldLive.com took to the air for the first time. This is the 486th show. And today, we're going down a little memory lane. We're going to take a break. You're going to get some audio as well as visual. I hope the new Tom Coates commercial plays, because he plays a little animated Superman. I'm going to take you down that trek that started on a December 8th morning of 2008 when my world was rocked, and I thought, well, just maybe it's time to hang up the microphone and the headphones. Maybe. And do something different. We're coming back. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. And today, it's just listening. I love my job, and I couldn't do it without you. Right here at MaxWorldLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios. Listen, watch, chat. This is Webcast One Live.
Programs on WebcastOneLive.com are brought to you in part by KDC Builders, building custom homes for how you live. KDC will take your dreams and turn them into reality. Go to our website, kdcbuilt.com, or call Hannah Inman at 515-975-9990. And Tom Coates and ConsumerCreditOfAmerica.com. Are you overwhelmed with mounted credit card debt and feel there's no way out? Well, there is. Call 1-800-955-5765 for Consumer Credit of America. That's ccofamerica.com.
The Kincaids live here. Across the street, the Padillas. Ben and his family live here, too. Ben's a RE/MAX agent, and he's a big part of this community. There are lots of reasons why RE/MAX agents average more sales than other agents. Experience, certainly. But maybe it's also because they care about the markets they serve and the neighbors who rely on them. Nobody sells more real estate than RE/MAX.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios. Listen, watch, chat. This is Webcast One Live.
Programs on WebcastOneLive.com are brought to you in part by KDC Builders, building custom homes for how you live. KDC will take your dreams and turn them into reality. Go to our website, kdcbuilt.com, or call Hannah Inman at 515-975-9990. And Tom Coates and ConsumerCreditOfAmerica.com. Are you overwhelmed with mounted credit card debt and feel there's no way out? Well, there is. Call 1-800-955-5765 for Consumer Credit of America. That's ccofamerica.com. All right, we are back. We are live. It is the 28th day of December in the Lord's year 2010. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is Max World. Today is the second anniversary, the beginning of the third year of MaxWorldLive.com. It was December 28th of 2008 that Doug Mitchell, my tech angel, and my son got me to go to the internet. And that gives us pictures, and that gives us visuals, and all that kind of stuff. And it's not that I'm not appreciative of that technology, because I am, but I have a face for radio. And I enjoy telling a story. And I enjoy turning out the lights and just talking to you. So that's what we're doing today. So I'm going to reach back here, and I'm going to shut off the lights. And then Max is going to turn the cameras off. And I don't know what he'll put on the screen. I told him it was his choice. Whatever he wanted to put on the screen, he could do it. And you and I are just going to sit back in the dark, and we're going to talk about the last 2 years. I don't know why I love radio the way I do, but I'm so blessed to all my life for getting paid to do what I love to do. I never had to do something just for the paycheck. I consider that one of my greatest gratitudes to my Father God. He knew what He knew what would motivate me. He knew what I enjoyed doing. And I don't ever think it was all about the attention. Oh, don't get me wrong. You're 21, sophomore at the University of Nebraska, and you're on the hot AM music station, KLMS Lincoln, and LMS stood for Lincoln's Music Station, and you're the nighttime jock. And then on Friday and Saturday nights, you work at the hot disco in town. Yes, I said disco. One of these days, I'll bring a picture so you can see me in an afro. Yes, I had one. And I'd spin records with, the Bee Gees, Donna Summer, John Travolta, Saturday Night Live. That was the world we lived in those days. And don't think for one moment that there weren't lovely, attractive ladies of all shapes and sizes, of all heights and weights and hair colors, who somehow, because you're on the radio, somehow because you're behind the mic, that makes you special. If there's anything I fought my entire career, it was the fact that I'm just like you. This is just my job. I'm not a dentist because I couldn't pull teeth. I'm not a lawyer because I have integrity. I'm not a corporate guy because I don't believe in brown-nosing. I'm not a politician because I tell the truth. And I'm not a laborer because I'm terrible with my hands and not smart enough to add 2 plus 2. But the gift the good Lord gave me was, well, there's a lot of words for it. Discernment is the spiritual word. Revelation is the prophesy word. Long line of BS is the story behind the bar. And in broadcasting, it was called telling a story and spinning a tale. See, I learned from Rob Hager at KLMS in Lincoln that you always talk to one person. And I can remember in the early days of my career, I would have a picture of someone in front of me, and I very rarely would know who that person was. It was many times I'd go to the lobby and grab a magazine and rip out a picture. Because I always learned that you talk to a person, that you didn't talk to the masses of asses. That about the time you said, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen," or "How's everybody doing?" the person riding down the road in the car would look to their right and see no one in the passenger seat. They'd turn their shoulder and look in the back seat and see no one there, and they'd realize that there was no everyone. There were no ladies and gentlemen present. It was just them. And the radio was their way of connecting with someone. And they obviously weren't talking to me if they said ladies and gentlemen or everyone. So I just talk to you. I love great conversation. Great conversation is the heart of every relationship. Great conversation is the heart of every spiritual journey, whether it be prayer or meditation, debate, or just a good old argument. Conversation and communication is how we walk from point A to point B. It's how we work. It's how we love. It's how we parent. It's how we live. If you isolate yourself away from communications with people, then all you're going to talk to is yourself. And I don't know about you, but I'm not a very interesting person all by myself. I win every argument. I'm never wrong. And it's always the way I want it. And that's just no way to live. So being on the radio, in talk radio, was my opportunity to share the world that I lived in with you. And most importantly, ask you to share your world with me. It's not my voice I want to hear. It's your voice I want to hear in Mac's World. That is not a positioning statement or a position. What else do you call it? A slug line? That's not what it is to me. It's the truth. It is your voice I want to hear in Mac's World. And it used to be by the phone calls. Now it's this chat I have in front of me. Thanks, Gildy. A tale of being a pro at slinging bull. I resemble that remark. However your voice gets to me, whether it's auditory, whether it's visual, in today's technology, whether it's Skype or a text or an email, it's still the emotion that you have buried within you. It's the debate. It's the passion. It's the argument that you want to communicate with somebody else. And we've gotten awful fancy in this world, in talk radio. Look at Glenn Beck. I can tell you that I knew Glenn when. I knew Glenn when he was a pitiful alcoholic. I knew Glenn when he was just starting out with 17 radio stations, syndicating him. And now, I personally think the guy should run for president. Maybe he's the next Ronald Reagan. Sean Hannity, a radio guy. Now, pardon me, Sean, I respect you, but you're the biggest Republican Party tool I've ever met. Rush Limbaugh? Okay. Hannity, you're the second biggest Republican tool I've ever met. I love talk radio. Larry King just retired after 75 years. Where did he start? Talk radio. Walter Cronkite, my mentor of integrity. Where did he start? Talk radio. Ronald Reagan, one of the greatest presidents to ever live, certainly in the 20th century, started talk radio. It's the greatest form of communication expression that there ever is. And I don't care what futuristic movie you play. I don't care what your favorite way of listening or watching, how you learn, reading a Nook, watching public television, Meet the Press. It's still one person talking to another person, sharing ideas. Talk radio will always be the most passionate and the most sincere form of communication known to man. I don't care if it's on the cable TV. I don't care if it's on the internet. I don't care if it's on a platform. I don't care if it has HD cameras. Communication is still the sharing of thoughts and feelings and passions. And for 2 years, we've been doing that on this platform called MaxWorldLive.com. Those of you that participate in Facebook threads, where do you think the energy for each daily show comes from? When you download a show and listen to it, when you engage yourself into me with emails, texts, and blogs, Well, I hate to tell you, folks, but that's the new normal. I'm fortunate that I embraced it. I can't embrace gas-powered fireplaces. I can't embrace clothes on my puppy when they go out in the cold in little booties. I can't embrace high-speed rail. I don't even do airplanes very well. But I'm fortunate that I have embraced this technology called the Internet. Because if you really want to know the truth, the Internet is really just radio or television or telegraph or the written word, or smoke signals, or pictures carved on the wall of a cave. The new normal is you, what you're listening to, what you're participating in. And thanks to you, it's my new home. 468 shows. I think I said the wrong number earlier. This is 469. 468 shows. I got some people that I want to thank. I want to thank my Father God. He comes first. He's the most important thing in my life. He walks with me. He talks with me. Maybe that could be an old church hymn. He walks with me and he talks with me. Okay, never mind. Anybody who's known me long enough to know my relationship with him. And back on that day of December 28th, I want to thank Doug Mitchell, my tech angel, and my son Zachary, who after getting fired at 98, I felt that this portion of my career was over and that it was time to move on to something else, grabbed me, looked me in the eye, shook me up a little bit, and said, no, what you have to offer is still too important to our community to let it go because there's not a terrestrial signal available for you to broadcast on. We're going to start your own platform, your own show online. And I have to be honest with you, I thought that was sucky. I don't want to be online. Only losers are online. Unemployed go online. People who can't get a job put up their little laptop with their little cameras and they do their show that way, right? Boy, was I wrong. The new pioneers of the broadcast industry are right before your very eyes. If I may humbly say so, I'm one of them. But without you, I couldn't be one of those. So don't ever think I forget which side my bread is buttered on. The pioneers like Leo Laporte. The pioneers like Livestream. The pioneers like Facebook that take this new form of communication in its most complex form and make it so all you have to do is open up your phone and push a couple buttons and you're listening to this show live driving down the road. For those of you that don't listen to Webcast One Live as you drive down the road like you might listen to 1040 WHO or Iowa Public Television, or Iowa Public Radio or 98.3, you're the one that doesn't have the technology. I'm doing it every day. I got a radio in my car with a cord that I plug in, and I'm listening to Michael Libby when I leave here, and I'm listening to Jeff Bratz later on, and I'm listening to Bruce Stone. Now, I'm not happy listening to Bruce Stone, but I'm listening to Bruce Stone. So embrace the technology that's before you, because I'll put the programs on this platform up against anybody else in town. Competent, intelligent, respectful, integrity-based, morally above board, honest, passionate, vicious, compelling, heartwarming, and life-changing. That's what this platform brings to you. You just have to open the door because we're knocking. So my son and my tech angel, Doug Mitchell, embraced me and said, we're going to put you online. And if you go back to Ustream, there are 792 shows, I think, listed on Ustream under Max World Live, and that's all with Michael Libby and Liz and the Rabbi and Carl Olson and Claire Selsey and Tim Albrecht and Jonathan Narcissus and so many good people. But if you go back to the first one, it's a studio. The Impromptu Studios, downtown, with one USB camera, whole bunch of wires, a whole bunch of screens, trying to share our passion. That was show 1 on December 28th. Now, 468 shows later, we have HD delivery on 40-some platforms, quickly approaching 20 shows by the end of this quarter, 40 by the end of the second quarter. People listening to us in multiple countries, including Afghanistan and Iraq, where I don't hear daily, but I hear weekly and more than once a week from somebody sitting in a sand-filled, crappy, too hot, far away from my family, this sucks kind of place. And somehow they find comfort in turning on Max World Live, either live at 10 a.m., which if I get it right, I think it's 8 p.m. there. I think it's 10 hours later there. It's 10 hours later there. Or if it's downloading a podcast. And then I get an email, then I get a text, then I get a Facebook that thanks me for doing what I do, because it keeps them in touch with the people they love back home while they're doing what they need to do for us. I got to thank Tom Coates. I got to thank KDC Builders. I got to thank Springer Pest Control, On the Spot Carpet Cleaning, Atchison Auto Works. All those people that supported me financially so that we could build this business. And you know, I'd be just a fool if I didn't remember the most important person to thank. My family, but most importantly, my wife, who dealt with me in this dream and this passion and the frustrations of it and the successes of it and a lot of failures every day, 24/7. You don't like me? You can shut it off. You don't like what I have to say tomorrow? You can shut it off again. You think I've gone too far right? Or I'm too moderate? I'm too blue? Or I'm too whatever? You can shut me off and never come back. But my wife has to deal with my little piece of white trash every single day. And as I have said many, many times before, when I die and go to heaven, I'm going to discover that my wife CJ was an angel sent to me by my Father God to look out over my free will exercising butt. Because man, oh man, when I exercise my free will, it isn't always the best outcome. And I got to thank a couple people that taught me how to forgive. Now, obviously, my Father God gets total credit for teaching me how to forgive. But if there weren't people like Terry or Dwayne, then I wouldn't have been challenged. Because if you cut me off on 235, that's not too hard to forgive. If you exchange my French fry order for my onion ring order, that's not too hard to forgive. If you forget my birthday or forget to say hi to me at church, that's not hard to forgive. But sometimes things happen in this life that seem unforgivable. And Pastor Mike, on that first show on December 28th of 2008, taught me what forgiveness really was. And at the end of that show, I said, oh my heavens, this is a task greater than I. And that began my trek to truly learn what forgiveness is. And if people's own free will hadn't gotten so out of line, so out of hand, so rude, so wrong, so illegal, so uncaring, so unloving, and so unfair, so selfish, so hurtful, so devastating, I wouldn't have felt the need to forgive. So for those people that made me learn to forgive, I thank you too. Ronald Reagan, in his second inauguration, said this in a speech: "I see the future, and it is a good and prosperous one." In the good old days, I used to say, I wish we had the opportunity to share our passion for life, love, Iowa politics, faith and values, and the pursuit of happiness live on the air with anyone who wanted to listen. It couldn't. It wasn't possible with terrestrial radio or television. Well, as my grandmother used to say, Mac, be careful what you wish for. The platform you're on now, listening to, Webcast One Live, is now on iTunes, Livestream, Ustream, YouTube, Justin TV, Blueberry, and 37 other worldwide platforms. Now, I want to say that again. See, it used to be that when Mac's World came to you, it came to you at 98.3 or 92.5. Or 107.5, or 1040, or 940, or 1290, or 1480, or 1350. One at a time, one place, with limited exposure, with limited coverage. Now, we're on NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, CNN, and 30 others all at once. We are on the most powerful delivery platform in the world. Free. Anytime. It's called iTunes. We're on the most popular and most powerful video-based platform or channel ever known to man, called YouTube. We're on Livestream, which makes what we used to do in this business look so easy. We used to have $1 million worth of equipment to do what Livestream allows me to do from this studio at the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios in the Skywalk in the Hub Tower in downtown Des Moines, looking over the plains of Iowa. Blueberry, which you find on Boxee and Apple TV and Roku and PS3. Facebook, LinkedIn, MySpace. It goes on and on and on. We have people that listen to us in dozens of countries. And the neat thing is, we know that down to the one. See, in terrestrial radio and television, when you say, well, how many people listen or how many people watch? The only thing I can give you is estimated averages, done by diaries, done by weighting. And I don't mean W-A-I-T, I mean W-E-I-G-H-T. If 20% of the population is men 18 to 34, they send out 20% of the diaries to men 18 to 34. But if 20% of those people return diaries, then those 20 count times 5. In our business, the webcast business, we know you're listening, we know you're watching, and we can bring it down to the one. I am so appreciative of getting the opportunity to come into your lives every day for an hour or so. My purpose in life is to touch a soul and change someone's life, even if it's 1% at a time. And you make that possible. You listen, share, argue, debate, bring your passions, you man up. It's not a genderless term. A woman can woman up. Just make sure you're ducking when she's woman-upping. You bring your passion So that's what makes this work. And I have said, and will continue to say, until they take the last breath from me, thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Show 469, done. 32 years of broadcasting, turning to 33. And tomorrow, just another day, just another 24 hours, just another sunrise. But let's see if we can make it interesting, will you? It's your voice I want to hear in Mac's World. Tell me what we should talk about. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't thanked you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Right here, show 469 at MaxWorldLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios. Listen, watch, chat. This is Webcast One Live.
Programs on WebcastOneLive.com are brought to you in part by KDC Builders. Building custom homes for how you live. KDC will take your dreams and turn them into reality. Go to our website, kdcbuilt.com, or call Hannah Inman at 515-975-9990. And Tom